Welcome to the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek, where we give our audience a look into the world of manufacturing with a focus on those modern technology trends that we commonly call Industry 4.0. Our guests join us to share their thoughts on the subject, their experiences around what works and what doesn't, and we all share some tips on how to lead you through a successful digital transformation. My name is Sam Russum. I'm the Senior Director of Smart Manufacturing Solutions at Grantek. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Logan Terry at Grantek. Logan is a Senior Manager of Strategic Account Management. He works in Grantek's Vancouver office and joined the company in 2016 as a systems designer, as many of us at Grantek tend to do. Logan has been involved in a huge number of projects and activities at Grantek, from engineering to project management, and now he sits on our business development side. He's really shown just incredible project and technical leadership, managing small, large, and complex projects. And today, Logan is primarily responsible for driving some industry oversight and defining our growth strategy around the life sciences vertical. So, Logan, so happy to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Sam. Appreciate the introduction.
Well, hey, we always like to kind of get started with a big kind of open-ended, let's dive into Industry 4.0 type question. What does Industry 4.0 mean to you?
Yeah, and obviously it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of different answers that people could have for this. I mean, by definition, obviously, Industry 4.0 is the fourth industrial revolution, leveraging in digital technologies in an industrial environment to improve not only efficiencies, but the manufacturing process as a whole, production processes, quality, etc. But to me, Industry 4.0 really comes down to two kind of phases to implement Industry 4.0. And the first is more surrounding the interconnection of disparate devices and systems, right? Not only make systems or devices self-aware of themselves, but aware of other systems and devices within the facility. So creating that sort of exposed or transparent data flow between not only a system singular, but the systems that make up the manufacturing facility. Now, obviously, once you have all of that interconnection completed, then you can really start to leverage some of the higher powers of Industry 4.0, where you get into centralized data collection, a single source of truth for your entire manufacturing data flow. Once you have, you can start to leverage even higher level applications like AI or machine learning to start to do higher level analysis of the data. And really, that's where the power of Industry 4.0 comes in, when you can start to leverage digital solutions to automate or make the decision process more efficient. So you're not just relying on the human interaction with the data to develop information that you then base your decision-making process off of. You can start to automate that. Me personally, now that I focus largely in the life sciences vertical, Industry 4.0 concepts are being applied there, and ISP coined this term Pharma 4.0 back in 2017. And it takes a lot of these same concepts that have been used in Industry 4.0 in non-regulated space for many years now, and starts to apply them in a heavily regulated industry like the pharmaceutical manufacturing space.
Yeah, no, that's great, and good explanation. You definitely you're making me think. So I'm just coming off the Thanksgiving holiday here. The Thanksgiving holiday break here in the U.S., right? So I've had to explain to a lot of parents and family members what Industry 4.0 and my job is. So I have all these new analogies going, right? And you're talking about kind of getting all of these things to talk to each other. Like, again, like a lot of people that might not know as much what goes on in the shop floor don't realize that, like, a lot of these machines, production lines, like, essentially have their own little internet network, right? Like, they only talk to the things that are directly on their manufacturing line. So you have like a bunch of little cultures or internets kind of all around your plant, and then you need to get all these talking to each other, and then you need to get them talking to the real internet to actually use AI and machine learning and things like that. So kind of talking about all these segmented networks, getting all of them to be exchanging data and working together, and then hopefully being able to pipe all that out of the plant. And then totally really excited to see kind of what happens with ISPE and the Pharma 4.0 initiative, right? Like Pharma 4.0, as far as I understand it, like, right, not a new thing, more of kind of like a twist, a modification, kind of like ways that we're taking Industry 4.0 principles that apply to all sorts of manufacturing and saying, but specifically for pharma, this is kind of how you would implement some of that. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry obviously is very risk adverse, right? And for good reason. So it's how do you take some of these similar concepts that other manufacturers say less risk adverse industries have been deploying and gaining benefits from for so long? How do you deploy them in a repeatable and a predictable way that your quality doesn't your quality isn't
Yeah,
hindered
yeah,
by it,
totally.
right?
Cool. So I know the right answer to this question. So this is more of a quiz for you, but tell me how Grantek kind of approaches digitalization in Industry 4.0 and the way that we as a company kind of help to move that mission forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you could probably answer
But
this
I'm not
better than
allowed
I
to. This
could,
is your
but I'll
interview.
do my
Yeah.
best. That's right. Yeah. So obviously, Grantek, we're a full stack systems integrator. We're heavily focused on the digitalization journey for our clients across all four layers of the ISA 95 stack. So be it from intelligent devices through your PLC or DCS, up through your MES or MOM, and then into your ERP, the layer four, right? And really, we pride ourselves on not only being able to implement these digitalization initiatives for our clients upon request when they kind of know what roadmap they want to follow, they know their business objectives and what solutions will meet those business objectives for them. But that's not always the case, right? Sometimes people struggle to correlate a digitalization effort with a true ROI or how that initiative will meet their business objectives, right? And sometimes they don't even know exactly what their true business objectives are from a digitalization perspective, right? And that's where our consulting services really come into play, where we can help them through that early journey to define what their true needs are, what solutions or technologies best meet those needs when it comes to a digitalization investment, right? And then we can help guide them through that entire process. So from conception to implementation to in the pharma industry validation or
Yeah,
qualification.
great point. And the only thing I might add to it too is that like we don't need to do that full like end-to-end process to be valuable in it, right? There's plenty of customers that maybe they've already gone to some consulting house or have internal resources making that overall 5-year roadmap of what you're going to do for Industry 4.0. Grantech can take that and start talking about how we implement it, just do the implementation, right? There's kind of a lot of pieces and parts that we can kind of take to help fill out that journey. But no, I think that that's great. And you're right. I think that whole process from designing and defining those objectives through the technical design, through the implementation and validation is really important. And also, it may be even important to think about how validation is valuable beyond just the life sciences industry, right? Like, so in life sciences, we have this concept of data integrity, right? To be able to show that any piece of data that we're making decisions on is a true and accurate representation of the real world, right? Because that can, what's the point if you're not? And while it's like a legal requirement in pharma, it's a good requirement for a lot of people to make sure that you're not getting all this junk data
Yeah,
and that you're really making value decisions based on the right information.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So speaking of those like 5-year roadmaps, so great idea of where Grantech is today. Where do you see our company growing in the future over the next 3 to 5 years to get even deeper into Industry 4.0 and bring that to more of our customers?
Yeah. So I mean, Grantek, obviously we're a solutions provider, right? So we are not a singular technology provider. We try to provide the best solutions for our clients based on what their current needs are or
Mm-hmm.
objectives are. And because of that, we're constantly evaluating our clients' needs. We're communicating with them to understand what their true objectives are, comparing those objectives and needs to the new technologies that are emerging, to try to find and basically correlate the best suited technology or solution to help our client through their
Yeah.
objectives, right? How they go from a conceptual plan to actually realizing the benefits or reporting up to their management that they have achieved the goals they were set out to for that
Yeah.
fiscal year, right? But apart from being a solutions provider where a solution for one client can be very different than the same sort of solution for another client based on what their current technology stack is, there's a lot of customized development that goes into that. But as a whole, as you're aware, we also have our products group at Grantek where we are developing more productized solutions that meet sort of those common shared, I would say they solve common problems or they fit a certain mold that a lot of our clients share, right? Um, one of which is our newly released Cloud EMS product. Some of the listeners may have seen some posts about that recently, and if you haven't, I highly suggest you go and check it out. The Cloud EMS is a fully 21 CFR Part 11 compliant solution and infrastructure, as well as an application for environmental monitoring within the life sciences industry. Beyond that, we have our digital signage application as well as our material request system that both kind of make up a part of our digital cleanroom solutions offerings. All of these offerings are striving to assist manufacturers automate processes that were very much previously manual and very subject to human error. And we automate that and remove that human error portion of it. So over the next 5 years, obviously, we're not going to stop striving to find these solutions that best fit our clients' needs. And we like to imagine or believe that we'll stay at the forefront of that and continue to offer high value solutions for all of our clients.
No, totally. And certainly something that I hold near and dear to my heart, since I lead a lot of those product efforts for Grantek, right? Like a lot of the analogies you pull, I always keep on pulling the sandwich analogy too. Like, look, you can go to the grocery store and you can buy your bread and your condiments and your meats and your cheeses or whatever and make your own sandwich. Or you can go to Grantek, which is like a sandwich shop, hopefully, where we have there's like 12 specials that we have on the board, and you can still customize them. You can still take things on or off or whatever, but we do have a bunch of recommendations that are very quick and easy for us to make, and we know how to do it every time. So yeah, I think that's super valuable. As you were talking about kind of that first part of it around like kind of how Grantek goes and approaches this, again, we talked a couple of times about how it starts with the challenges and the problems that our customers, these manufacturers, are trying to solve. What are some of the big challenges that you see manufacturers coming to you with today as they're looking for Industry 4.0 solutions?
Yeah, definitely. I think in my experience and being around the industry for the last 7 years, I think there's two main challenges that our clients face in the manufacturing space. And the first sort of is around the remediation work or effort that's required just to be able to implement Industry 4.0 or Pharma 4.0 technologies, right? Really start to gain value, which is that interconnectivity of systems to allow them to speak to one another. So you have this centralized data collection and centralized repository of data that you can then convert to information to help automate the decision-making process, right? There's a lot of remediation work that goes in there, such as OT network improvements to enable connectivity, software upgrades, operating system upgrades to allow the installation and implementation of new platforms that you're looking to implement. And all of these efforts can take what could be a feasible project and drastically expand the scope of that to something that's maybe not feasible in a single fiscal year or a few fiscal years, right? It'll require a lot more, not only capital investment, but resource investment as well. From very valuable and internal resources that are already spread pretty thin in many organizations, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like part of what you're saying there is that like while a lot of our customers have these ambitions towards Industry 4.0, there's a lot of groundwork that they are still working on that could be arguably Industry 3.0 or other prep work that kind of needs to get done before that. Kind of you got to learn how to dribble the ball down the court before you can get a slam dunk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another area that Grantek can add a lot of value is how do you break these now large projects up into bite-sized pieces that you can manage feasibly throughout with your available capital that you have.
Okay, cool. So if we get that work done, we're laying the groundwork, we're getting these systems communicating. What do you think the challenges that we solve after that are going to be in the future? So once these things are talking, what's the value that we get out of it? What do we do in the future that we can't do today?
Yeah, exactly. So once you have everything connected and you're collecting data as needed, right? You need to do something with that data. Collecting data for the sake of just having the data isn't very valuable unless obviously it's for regulatory purposes, right? Which then it's very valuable. But let's say you are trying to make optimizations within your production process, your manufacturing process, right? You need to analyze that data in some form to turn it into information that can then be used in the decision-making process. And obviously there's many ways you can achieve that. You can do human analysis using a data scientist or something to help derive these correlations between data patterns and how you should be view those data patterns and what you need to do to take action, right? But that's a very manual brute force process where there's applications and solutions now that are much higher level than that, where it's a digital solution that you can use cloud technologies and the power of cloud computing to analyze that data and actually spit back usable actions that you can take.
Yeah,
from it,
totally.
Right?
So between kind of that groundwork that we're laying now and that vision of the future, what is it, in your opinion, that makes a company like Grantek and the experience that we have like uniquely suited to be helping our customers with Industry 4.0?
Yeah, certainly. So I mean, as a company, we can cover sort of the full breadth, the full life cycle of an Industry 4.0 initiative, right? Whether it's that conceptual design or trying to understand your ROI and whether or not a project's justified, but then through all of the design components as well. Vendor analysis, obviously there's a ton of technologies out there available now. Understanding what is the best technology for your current needs is a very difficult and daunting task for some people. So we will perform those vendor analysis to provide you what we think is the best fit and then get approval for that before we move forward. And then going on beyond that through the implementation and, like I said, the validation and qualification. So we're kind of uniquely situated to cover that full project lifecycle for our clients and really take the burden off their very valuable internal resources and help them execute these
Yeah,
projects.
that's a good point. And you know what? I don't really know how much vendor selection has really come up as we've talked about a lot of these kind of initiatives, but it is such an important piece of the puzzle. And there's so many different ways that you can tackle it, right? It seems like there's a million wrong answers only so many right answers, but there's still a lot of right answers, right? I talk to a lot of customers, especially bigger customers, right? That have long-standing relationships with major technology providers, right? And they kind of want to stay within that ecosystem as much as possible and kind of see where they can stretch it. There's other customers that might be kind of more smaller manufacturers, or maybe they don't really have those relationships. Maybe they don't like their current provider. And do they switch to another big one? Do they look at a couple of different, more innovative companies that are doing kind of, really new stuff in the space, knowing that there's a little bit of risk in that? Like, it's a really interesting, multifaceted problem where you're balancing risks and rewards and price like that all the time. So yeah, the vendor selection, like you're totally right. We could do a whole podcast just on that if we wanted to. And now I kind of do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So just a couple more questions, and I do like this one. I always think it's fun. Again, especially after Thanksgiving, where a lot of the family and the people that I talk to have no idea about the technology that actually is running inside of a lot of these plants out there, but they know the technology they deal with every day, right? So what types of like consumer technologies or things that everybody's kind of using all the time now do you really see making an impact on automation and manufacturing in the future?
Yeah, it is a great question. And for me personally, I think the one sort of, and it may not be so clear that it's a consumer technology
Okay.
for some people who aren't familiar with the industry, but cloud-based technologies,
Okay.
right? Cloud computing. And I mean, anybody who's gone on to Amazon to purchase something has gained value from cloud-based technologies, right? The manufacturing space, though, only in specific cases are people really using it for its true power. Many OT platforms or operational technology platforms were previously designed solely for on-premise solutions, right? Where you're leveraging a server stack in-house at the facility, and all of your compute infrastructure and compute processing is done on that server stack. Whereas today, with the huge expansions and huge improvements to cloud technology, there's just so many benefits that you can gain by leveraging that technology. So a lot of previously solely on-prem solutions are now being modified for a cloud infrastructure deployment, whether or not it's SCADA or data analytics or AI or ML, right? If you can offload some of that compute infrastructure, maybe for non-production critical functions, up to the cloud to analyze and then spit back information back on-prem for you to take action, there's a huge amount of value in doing so. Our solutions, they've been working on this already for a number of years, and they've taken sort of the software as a service model a little bit further already than it was previously been done, and are offering a fully 21 CFR Part 11 compliant cloud-based platform, and it's a platform as a service. It's for SCADA, historian, reporting functionality, alarming functionality, and some of the values, not only you're removing on-prem compute infrastructure that can be very costly, but you're also drastically reducing the time to startup, right? Especially in today's day and age where supply chain is I don't even want to get into supply chain.
That's your favorite topic. Yeah, this is the Industry 4.0 podcast,
That's
not
right,
your supply chain podcast, Logan.
That's right. I won't go off on that tangent, but server infrastructure now, I mean, you order a server stack and it could be 12, 13, 14 months before you even
Yeah.
get it available or in-house to install. So doing some of this cloud-based deployment or cloud-based infrastructure allows you to stand that up almost instantaneously within a number of hours rather than a number
Yeah.
of months, right? But it also provides our clients for our clients with a fully managed and compliant platform that can be leveraged for many different functions, all while providing a full DevOps process
Yeah,
flow.
well, and a really interesting thing that you kind of started talking about early in that I think is really a good point too, is how some people might not even realize what the degree to which that is consumer technology these days, and we have a long way to go there on the manufacturing side right now, right? Like it is newer technology.
Yeah.
If you're installing a new cloud-based system, you know it because there's a lot of complexities to kind of getting that going. There's a lot of potential value, but it's not as seamless as, again, like if you're looking through your photos on your iPhone. Some of those are not on your iPhone. Some of those are in the cloud. Some of them are really on your iPhone. Where are they? You don't know. You don't actually care. You know, it's as long as you can see them as you need it, it's fine. We're still quite a few steps away from that. But I did say what would happen in the next 5 years, so I'm going to give it to you. So hey, again, you've listened to the podcast before. You kind of know how we close these out. We kind of bring forward a question asked previously. We get to let you ask one for someone in the future too. So a previous guest of ours asked how important the edge is with all of these cloud architectures that are coming up. So I was wondering if you could provide any insight around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, edge technologies, I mean, there's a lot that are available now and can be deployed in a lot of different architectures and applications, right? So why is it important? I think it allows you to implement these more forward-looking architectures that were previously not feasible for manufacturers, right? So you have a small, lightweight edge device installed at your facility that is has an active connection up to the cloud for data transmission or store and forward if there is ever a loss in connection between the cloud or your internet connection goes down for whatever reason. But it allows you to very easily connect your physical devices at your facility and then transfer that data to the cloud or higher level applications for processing, right? But then there goes to one step further, which is there's edge architectures and then there's edge driven concepts, right? Where as an edge driven concept, you would have devices that you connect to an edge device, and then without any configuration or customization or programming done, the information available from, let's say, that intelligent device, say it's a temperature sensor or a temperature and humidity sensor for EMS monitoring, right? It'll have a couple of analog values that it needs to communicate out and maybe a device status or something like that. In the edge-driven concept, you would be able to connect that device up and instantaneously it would start to communicate its parameters or it needs to up to your higher level applications, be it your SCADA for then visualization, right? And that brings in a whole new subset of benefits and challenges, right? Obviously in the regulated industry, edge-driven architectures might be a little bit more difficult to implement because you don't want to just you don't want to be able to connect something and it start communicating to an application that's validated, whereas that goes completely against the rules of validation, right? So there's definitely some additional steps, but maybe in a non-validated environment, there's a lot more benefits that you can gain more immediately with less.
Yeah, and on the other hand, actually, edge devices might be key to solving some challenges of adopting the cloud in that regulated environment too, right? Edge can really be a great solution to that problem of what happens if I lose that internet connectivity, right? It could be your device that's doing store and forward of data and tracking that temperature probe that you just talked about, waiting for its cloud database to come back online. So none of that data got lost. It just wasn't getting sent up to the cloud at the time, right? Or the other way that I've seen it is where, there's a lot of concern about having devices and systems in the cloud control or manipulate mission critical systems on the plant floor, because again, what if that connection goes down? Well, there's a lot of cool solutions around that. I've seen it where maybe you're using the cloud to develop that first AI model that you need to develop, but then that model actually gets downloaded to the edge device. So you can still run these AI ML algorithms you've developed that your line has relied on. They might not be improving the way that they might if they were full cloudly connected. Cloudly connected? Whatever. But yeah, no, it's really cool. So yeah, good insight on that. And what questions do you have for future guests about Industry 4.0 that you want to have answered?
Yeah, so let me think here. Being focused on the life sciences vertical, I think I'll kind of stay within
Sure.
that mindset a little bit. So I guess my question to the next guest, and something that I'd like to learn a little bit more about and have future discussions about, is, out of all of these Industry 4.0 technologies that are now being applied to regulated industries, right, like pharmaceuticals, what Industry 4.0 technology do we think would be the most difficult to implement in a heavily regulated industry such as pharmaceuticals? And why would it be difficult? And what steps do we have to get to where it might be feasible? Obviously, with pharmaceuticals being such a risk adverse, repeatable, reliable based in manufacturing space, how do we overcome those
Yeah,
challenges?
and I think a reasonable question that goes along with that is like, is it actually worth it? Or are some of these technologies so challenging, so
Exactly.
expensive to implement that the value's not there? And in which case, what is kind of the tipping point on that? What needs to happen to have that cost of value ratio get evened out some? So, mind if I add that to your question? Okay,
No,
good,
not
good.
at all. I think that's a great
Awesome. Well,
addition.
hey, thanks, Logan. It was awesome to have you here. Really cool insights. Great to kind of hear the Grantek spiel from someone that's not just me. So no, really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks everybody also for listening as always. We'd love to hear from everybody. So follow the Grantek on LinkedIn. Stay up to date with everything that we're doing. You can always subscribe to the Industry 4.0 podcast with Grantek wherever you get your podcasts. And you can email any questions, feedback on what we're doing here, or if you even want to be a guest or something like that, we would love to hear from you. Email us at info@grantek.com and join us next time on the Industry 4.0 podcast. Logan, great chat. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam.